Express yourself. I'm Kirbanu, and this is your podcast for creativity, conscious business, and soul expression. My podcast guest for this episode is none other than the very incredible Doctor Lisa Schuster of the Sound Institute Germany. I am so excited to share this discussion with you. We're deep diving into all things sound, into all things of finding resonance, your resonant frequency, and what the power of sound, and especially what the power of crystal singing bowls can do for you in terms of finding more balance, ease, peace, and harmony, and even inspiration in your daily life. I'm not going to say any more. Let's jump straight into this beautiful discussion.
Lisa, thank you so much for joining me today. So good to see you. And I know you're joining me down from Munich, and I'm up in Mannheim. So we're kind of both relatively in the south of Germany. You're more south than I am. As I mentioned to you before we jumped in, I really love what you do. And as I found you, I just felt like there was a lot of resonance between the work that you're offering and the speciality that you're kind of diving into, what you're sharing with others. So I really was excited to get you on here as a guest, and I'm really grateful that you agreed to join me. For everyone who is listening but perhaps doesn't know what you do, could you give me a little 2 or 3 liner about what you do and how you got into it? I think is really fascinating.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Lisa, and I live in Munich in the south of Germany, and I'm a medical doctor and work with holistic medicine, complementary medicine, also called here. And my main focus is sound medicine, how I call it. So I work mainly with sounds now and with all kind of different instruments, but I'm specialized in crystal singing bowls and also have my own brand, the Akasha bowls, and I'm running a sound healing institute. It's called Sound Medicine Institute Germany, where I teach about the knowledge and also the science and spirituality of sound healing. And and I just educate people about that so they can also spread the sounds into the world. Yeah.
It's so powerful. I love it so much. And I really admire what you've set up and how you're doing it. How did you get into this? Because let's face it, going from like the profession of a medical doctor, and I did do a little bit of stalking on your website. So I think you're a fitness model. So going from all of this kind of intense, high performing areas, let's say, how did you get into sound healing?
That's a good question that I get asked many times. And it's, of course, a story that has developed over years and years. It hasn't started overnight, but basically I was doing always a lot of sports and was very competitive in doing that, and doing many things on the side of my medical studies, because I always felt that medicine, the conventional medicine, is not really like resonating with me 100%. And I was also trying to find that what resonates with me. So, and through, but through doing all these side hustles and things, I got, just burnt out, and I couldn't do anything basically anymore. And that was a turning point in my life where I opened myself up to spirituality completely and to meditation and yoga. And that's how my path started that I really resonated with. But it took me some years to also acknowledge that and activate everything inside of me, and to just work on limiting beliefs and so many patterns that I had inside of me and my behavioral and thought structures. And basically I also found music again in my path in yoga and spirituality through my yoga teacher training that I did. That was the first contact with sound healing. And I was just really amazed by that you can use sounds only to heal and to process things and to reprogram the subconscious mind, all of these things. And I could feel it also inside of my system, what it's doing with me. And it also helped me over the years to process these things that I was just talking about, to really step into who I really am, what I'm here to do, and to fully live that and speak my truth. And sounds have always been part of that. That's why everything just happened like it did, and I'm working with it now full time, and it's my job, and I can just feel that it's the right thing every day. What I'm doing today.
Thank you. To be living your Dharma and to have that clarity is so powerful, and it's a gift, because to what you said, it does take us a lot of time to go through these thoughts, these beliefs, these protection mechanisms that they often are, to retrieve all these inner wounded parts, and to really allow ourselves to stand in our truth and our power, and from that space express ourselves and live our Dharma. You mentioned a few times one of my favorite words, and I wonder if you want to say something to this word, and that is resonance. What does it mean to be in resonance?
Yes, that's a term that I also use a lot in my sound healing trainings, because it's basically a physical phenomenon, and we know it from opera singers that can make a glass break, and it's basically because they find with their voice the resonant frequency of that glass and just stay on that frequency until the glass vibrates so much that it's just exploding. And I always say that sound and the work with sound healing brings you back into your resonant frequency. So that's basically the frequency, the frequency that you are born with and that you are here to vibrate on most of the time and to express yourself from. That's for me the resonant frequency. And I mean, through living and growing up and having like all these outside environmental things that we see and that we learn also from our parents, from society, we kind of drift off this resonant frequency. And that's also where I believe a lot of people get sick, because they do something that they are basically not resonating with, and they also resonate things into their life that are not for them, basically. So that's why I think it's the most beautiful thing to get back into your vibration and to live from that every day. And it's also an ongoing job. Like sometimes you will drift off a little bit again, but so the goal is not to stay on your resonant frequency 24 hours every day in the year, but it's always to reconnect back to that. And for me, the way to do that is through sound healing, and especially the crystal singing bowls. They immediately like kind of reconnect me back with my resonant frequency.
So beautiful. I love that. I'm doing a 2-year in-depth educational study program at the moment in voice therapy, and it's working as using the voice as the tool. I mean, I do that in my work anyhow, using the voice as a tool for personal transformation and healing, but actually creating voice box and really focusing on overtoning and getting people into alternative states of consciousness to have these opportunities for what I really love is let's say non-linear healing. So I think we can do so much with the mind, and the mind is such a powerful tool. I know you have a background in meditation, and so do I. And for me, that's a huge power to help us sit with ourselves and sit with the mind, and I guess use the mind in an empowered way, let's say, as opposed to being used by the mind. But offering these spaces for people's healing, for people's unstructured healing that they can step into, that they can soften into and have an experience. Perhaps you want to say a little bit more about that when someone's coming to you and having, let's say, a crystal ball session, or even for the first time coming to an event and listening to the resonance, to the sounds, experiencing that in themselves. What happens to them in that moment?
I mean, it's something that is very individual in the first place. And every sound healing session is also different. So you never experience exactly the same sensations, thoughts, visualizations. It's always different. But basically what the sounds do is they really effectively downshift your brainwaves. And that is a way how to enter different kinds of consciousness. And I always say that this is basically the state that we need to get into experience deeper healing. We need to change our state of consciousness. It doesn't happen from the state we're always in, or most of the time in. We need to change it to plant something new in the subconscious and to process things from a new perspective.
Yeah.
And that's very, very important and very essential for sound healing. And yeah, what people experience there is really individual. It really depends what they're going through right now, what their body needs. Some people basically just fall asleep because they're so exhausted, and the nervous system is so happy to finally like let go and take a deep rest. So if we enter into these lower brainwave states, the body knows exactly what they need to do and what they need the most right now. Yeah, the body.
So it's offering really, as you're saying, to take people from the beta state, which we're most often in, and like just some of us are just on beta all of the time, which is incredibly unhealthy. Dropping down into alpha and theta in order to help us, or maybe even in delta if they're knocking out completely, to help there be space for the wisdom of the body, the wisdom of the subconscious, the wisdom of the essence, to really allow healing and restoration.
Yes, the essence. That's also a word that I use a lot because I like resonant frequency, your essence, your soul, whatever it is, how you want to call it, but it's just a different aspect from our human being that we connect with. And a lot of people, they don't know about this aspect, and they have never been in touch with it, maybe as children, but they can't remember it. So it can be very overwhelming also in the first place, and a lot of emotions can come up because a lot of things also get suppressed over a long time. And when we connect to that core of our being, a lot of things can come up to the surface, which is not a bad thing, but it can be uncomfortable sometimes.
Yeah, and sometimes there's support that's needed in that space, because if people are dropping into that, as you're saying, for the first time, and it can be so overwhelming, and then they're just going through their life afterwards with having all of these deep, even sometimes trauma experiences that are coming up or that they're reliving, of course, there needs to be support in that space. And I know that you give that because I see that you're offering one-to-ones and the online courses that you offer, and having that meditation background, that mindfulness space, which I think is incredibly important for any person. But what I can also imagine is that the sound bowls, the singing bowls, they offer an easy step into that space to connect to essence, to use your word. I see that through the mantra singing work that I do with people and in my own courses, that, you know, when people are going into the mantra space and singing, or even just listening to the mantra music, because they also have this specific frequency and intention that's really awakening and activating inside the self as they're listening, or perhaps also singing to it. And then what happens, you know, to them and through them, and this, it's so cathartic, I think, you know, the release that can come up, the emotions that can come out, the memories. I always say it's, I love the German word Reinigung. You know, it's just a cleaning. I just think the German word hits the mark a little bit better than in English. But it's really a Reinigung, a cleaning, a cleansing for the soul on all levels. I'm curious, how has your personal practice changed since you've been working with the crystal singing bowls?
Regarding sounds, or in general?
Your own, let's say, personal practice that helps you feed and connect to your own essence, to stay in your own resonance frequency.
I mean, it's not constant. I just have a lot of tools through my sound healing practice, and I just combine it with yoga, with meditation, with mantras as well. So it's always changing, and I always adjust it to what I feel I do need now. So sometimes it's a practice of 5 minutes, sometimes it's a practice of 1 hour. So it really just depends what my body and my system needs right now. And it's not constant, but I get asked that question quite often, what my sound practice looks like, and I just say I don't have like a formula that I stick with all the time. But yeah, sometimes it's mantra, sometimes it's just humming. Sometimes it's sitting with my monochord or my harmonium and singing intuitively. Sometimes it's just expressing emotions that are inside of me through sound, because I think that's also something that we really suppress, and we learn as children that we should not do that and that it's not normal. But it's totally normal. Otherwise,
and necessary.
Do it. And necessary, yes, and a very, very easy way to release. Just also with movement, yoga, which is basically like kind of somatic movements. So it's always a mixture. But I think it's important to just create a space where you have this space for releasing and for reconnecting with yourself on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I completely agree with that. I don't like to talk to people within the first 3 hours of my day, because that's my time for myself. And I do a lot of mantra practicing, and practice singing for me is the vehicle of transformation.
Yeah. Do you have a mantra right now that you work with?
I've been working with the Lakshmi mantra pretty intensely for 2 years. So Om Shri Maha Lakshmi Swaha. I wrote a song for it. So because I'm a songwriter, when I start working with the mantra, and often it's completely intuitive or unexpected, I feel like the mantras always find me as opposed to me looking for them. And somehow I got in contact with the Lakshmi mantra about 2 years ago, and it just wouldn't leave me alone. And I started developing the song for it that I released on Spotify, I think last year, as a single. And that's just, I feel that that's going to be a lifelong mantra for me. So some mantras I work with for a year, sometimes it's just a month or a few months. It's a very intuitive process, and I just go with what feels like it's there, what's kind of unfolding for me. And then I feel that this mantra, the Lakshmi mantra, is really going to be a lifelong mantra, because there's something deeply there for my journey and for my healing and for my own transformation.
Yeah. And yourself, do you have a mantra that you're working with at the moment?
Right now I do the Kirtan Kriya, the Satanama. I haven't done it for a while, and I started it now, and I will also see where it takes me and how long I'm going to do it, just what feels right, like you. And what's also important to know for people who are listening, and you also said it, that each mantra has this frequency, its own frequency, and that these frequencies work on the subconscious mind. So they're dissolving things that our mind cannot process. And that's something that takes time, and it will develop over months. And you need to also be really like observative of yourself, like how you are reacting to the outside world, because that will change when you change things in the subconscious, on the subconscious mind.
Absolutely. You restructure your operating system, the operating system that you perceive the world through and have your life through. Absolutely. And that's the power of mantra.
And
something that I love.
In the beginning, when I was reading about this, I was like, I don't think this is going to work.
It works. It works.
And like, there's of course no scientific evidence, of course, of it as well. But I tried it myself, and I experienced it on myself, like how effective it is. And now I'm a strong believer in that, and it totally makes sense what they explain about mantras and how they were created and all of these things. So anybody who wants to know more about this should work with you or about the voice a little bit, but it's always part of the whole program. But so just read about it more. And
Dr. Gemma Perry, I interviewed her in the podcast a while back. She's over in Australia, and she's a mantra researcher. She's done a PhD, and she's working at the universities over there. She's also a kirtan specialist. And I think the papers that she's pumping out are pretty interesting in terms of getting scientific evidence for what is going on, especially in terms of altered states of consciousness, the power of chanting, what that does in terms of the sense of having belonging, community connection. So she's definitely got valid data on this. But yeah, I think she's the one to follow for getting the science in on the power of mantra, to your point. But they are so powerful, and they really do help us in our daily life. If someone wanted to begin let's say a journey into sound healing, what would you recommend for them as being one of the first steps to take?
To work on yourself with sounds.
To work on themselves, yeah.
And experience the effects, because like that, you can truly and authentically work with it, because it's something that you cannot describe in words very often. And that's also, especially my 3-month program, that is like the most intense program that I have. I do make the students work with sounds a lot. Like I have a lot of meditations and personal practice to do, because I want them to have these experiences, these personal transformations through sound. So they can really develop a practice for themselves that also is unique, because everyone will work on a unique level. And I think if you don't really work with sound and experience it on yourself, you won't find that uniqueness in your work. So that's something that I can tell everyone. And of course, there are like a lot of books, and just starting to read about it and try different things out and see which instruments you resonate with, because that's also different for everyone. Like not everybody will love crystal balls like I do. For example, I'm not that drawn to gongs, but I know people who love the gongs. So it's really about personal preferences. And I think it's also like according to our healing journeys, like we feel drawn to certain frequencies and certain types of instruments. And that also changes. Like sometimes I saw students that started with this type of instrument and now they work with another type of instrument. And always like going with the flow. And I always introduce new instruments into my family of sound healing instruments. And it's just a beautiful journey.
I think that's really interesting. I just have started working with therapeutic percussion as a part of my voice therapy program. And that's really interesting. Also for myself, I mean, I'm super sound sensitive, like crazy sound sensitive. But to see for myself, how does that feel? So when I'm working with a rattle and that has a certain level of coarseness to it, or like when I'm working with the chimes, for example, like what's happening in my body? How do I feel that in my physical body, emotionally, mental, spiritually? What's going on for me? What's my experience? And I agree with you in that point. I think reading is interesting and it's helpful to have a structure and a context. And of course, we need that. But I'm a huge fan of experiential. I think that in order to really drop into depth, to give us that space, and to your point, we are individuals, so everyone's going to have an individual and unique experience in their own way. And that doesn't make it right or wrong. It just makes it theirs for this point in their life at the moment, which is obviously a beautiful gift to allow that space.
Yes.
So you have created this incredible academy. You're offering so much and holding such space for people and for their transformation, and all through one of my favorite topics, the power of sounds. I imagine also that building up what you've created didn't happen overnight. What was one of the main challenges that you perhaps encountered in your professional career as you stepped into pursuing this dharma of yours and creating the academy that you've created for yourself?
I mean, the most challenging thing was, of course, to accept the way that I want to work as a medical doctor, because there's just a definition out there, and in society there's a certain picture like what you need to do after you finish university. Even though like there are 1 million possibilities and people just don't know about it, what doctors do. They're not all in the hospital. But of course it was also inside of myself, that picture. And to let go of that and to trust into the path that I really felt called to go, and to do it with courage, and to speak my truth every day. That was the most challenging thing for a long while. Yeah.
Did you encounter a lot of resistance from that traditional space?
I mean, yes, in the beginning, but it was because I also didn't have like a lot of doctors around me that would resonate with like spirituality and a different kind of medicine. more whole medicine, how I would like to call it. And that's, I think, why I just experienced more resistance. But now I have like a lot of doctors around me that also work differently and work with sound. I just saw that one doctor just came into the call.
Yes, I saw her. Hello.
Yeah, Denise, she has also gone through my courses, and she's a surgeon actually. And now she works full time with mind-body medicine and sound and meditation, and it's amazing to see that more doctors are stepping into another path and just do it and just do what feels good for them in the moment. I mean, that doesn't mean that it won't change. Also for me, I don't know, maybe one day I will work in the hospital, but right now I don't feel it. And I love the things that I do right now, and it really resonates with me. And that's the most important thing.
I love everything you just said. I think that's so important for everyone to be able to have that space to listen to their truth. And to really see what is truth and what are just judgments or thoughts or habits, or conditioning, but really to drop into that space of truth and to take that step and know that they can live their truth, and actually that they should, that it's their unique expression, that they're here to live and shine and share. So I really appreciate how you said what you just said. I'm definitely going to leave all of the links to your work in the show notes, obviously, to everyone listening to the podcast. Of course, everyone joining us on Instagram. If you're not following her already, please check out Lisa's channel. I love what she's offering, and she has just so much to give and that she's sharing. Definitely give her a DM or say hi. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with me today and to share a little bit about your journey and about the power of sound. The question that I love to always end my podcast on is this one. If there was just one message that you could leave the world with, what would it be?
One message?
Yeah.
To find your resonant frequency, which we just talked before.
I strive to that.
Yeah, and it can be through so many different ways. It doesn't have to be sound. For some people, ice bathing works, or breath work, or
singing,
forest bathing.
mantra chanting.
I don't know. It can be so many different things, but I think that's something that will make our world more whole and will help her heal the earth if more people operate from their true frequency again.
Yeah. Lisa, thank you so much for joining me. I love what you share and how you shared, and I really appreciate that you were here with me today.
That is it for this podcast episode. Please do get in touch with Lisa. She is all over online. You can find her website in the show notes as well as her Instagram. Of course, check out her Akasha bowls. These are really handmade crystal singing bowls that she is the founder of. High-end quality, incredible sound, and of course the quality is really impacting the way you're going to experience the energy of the singing bowl, so please do take a look at them. She has online courses of everything about the power of sound and sound healing. Take a look, and if you have any questions, get in contact with her, of course, get in contact with me. I wish you a beautiful time exploring and finding your own resonant frequency, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you again soon.